Okay, and here we just fly over just the titles of Mandela effects. So here it reads, huge personal Mandela effect. My entire neighborhood switched realities. Mandela effect. Panic. At the Disco lead singer can't explain his song changing. I can't explain the lyrics to my song changing. This is the same as the man who spoke Darth Vader's voice doesn't remember saying, "No, I am your father." He remembers, "Luke, I am your father." So he also experiences the Mandela effect. New Mandela effect. This is not my husband. Help. Mandela effect example. My wife is not my original wife. Mandela effect has removed 3 of my kids from this existence. They just don't exist. Shocker. The craziest Mandela effect ever. My name has changed. Mandela effect. Magazine changes before our eyes. Same like this, here catched on video. A Mandela effect caught morphing in real time, changing reality. Documented. This logo is changing in real time. Next one. Help. The Mandela effect has taken over my life. Shocking Mandela effect map changes after eclipse. After solar eclipse. It has something to do with portals. Big changes. The next one is from a playlist called Mandela Effect Glitch Stories, and this is where it very come closer to what it is aiming here. It reads, "But I died. My car changed its color, but my car was red. It was the same woman from my dreams. A true story of strange events. I teleported 3 blocks, and here it begins really to remember me on Salvia effects. Salvia divinorum, what is the effect? Here the story is, he ran out of the office. I saw my exact double sitting at my desk. I was in 2 places. The craziest New Year's Eve party. He was missing for years, but I was only gone an hour." And here I was directly remembered to a story that I read about half a year ago, and that shocked me when I read it, and it was not related to the Mandela effect, but to the Salvia effect. It reads, "Trips worth telling. The Salvia trip that took me from Alaska to Texas." If you want to know what it is about with Salvia divinorum, check out Lucid Dream audiobook 3 about Salvia divinorum, and it's a sacred master plant. It is connected to parthenogenesis. It is connected to the effect of a black hole for consciousness. And they call Salvia divinorum, which is one of 1,000 sorts of the Salvia plant species, and they call it Sca Maria Pastora, Yerba della Pastora. This means this is the herb of the Virgin Mary. Virgin Mary is parthenogenesis. It is the ability to clone itself, to reproduce infinitely, like when you produce. It is all explained very well in the audiobook. It is the strongest hallucinogen in the world, and here it comes that the Salvia effect equals and is very similar, if not almost very, very the same than the Mandela effect. And I'm gonna read this because it could be one-to-one a Mandela effect. And one has to say, this report, what can happen with Salvia when you overdose, concentrate, is really cross, and it shall be there just to show how powerful and how similar to the Mandela effect these two effects are. Salvia can also be a very soft, wonderful, loving goddess. This may be the reason why the Mazatec tribe, the indigenous people who brought us this sacred plant, say that smoking salvia is kind of dishonoring. It is a sacred divine tool for them. So it is much more safe to use when you just chew it and keep it in the mouth. But anyway, this is really a trip worth telling, sharing the impact. Steve Cantwell writes, I spent 8 years of my life with strangers in a strange land. Everything about existence is perspective, and no aspect of perspective is funnier than time. And here a comment on this, because this is a very famous trip report. In Reddit, someone writes, some of you may have read a salvia trip published here a few weeks back. The user reported traveling into another body and living another life for 8 years. I wasn't sure if this was a true story, so I contacted the gentleman. He confirmed that it is a true story, and he gave me a link to a podcast with much more information. What does this mean? Salvia notes are on the verge of a breakthrough in our understanding of consciousness and reality. Stay curious, but be careful. So here I just skip into the best parts of the story. He first tells that he was with the family on the 24th of December, Christmas evening, and he was waiting with his friends for the turkey to be served and eating it with the family, and before he just bought a substance, and he thought it is synthetic marijuana weed. It is a new version of it, and he was really sure that it must be something like weed. And therefore he put a lot of the stuff into his bong. This is a warning to really not overdose. This is what can happen. So I used this bong for the first time. I loaded the big glass bowl with half of the foil packet, flash fried it with a microtorch, and took the kind of lungful you take to prove your friend. That means that he just made a huge impress on his friends by breathing in as much as he could of this bong, of this salvia bong, but he didn't know it was salvia. It tasted like burning snow tires, but I held my smoke like a hero until the floor beneath me turned into a whirlpool that sucked me into it. Apparently, salvia is nothing at all like synthetic marijuana. Salvia is really not anything like marijuana. I fell for a short time down a swirling tube, and when I came back out into light, I was on the super realistic deck of a small skyboat and vomiting up water. Super realistic water was coming out of my lungs, along with the kind of coughing that makes your fingertips hurt. Coughing is husten. 3 strangers were gathered around me on the deck, talking excitedly. Man, we thought you drowned. The men were helping me off with my life jacket. You were face down and still, and it felt like forever to turn around and pull you out. So he was almost dead, his body swimming in a lake. The experience where they just rescued him. When I stopped coughing, I explained to my water skiing companions that I actually lived in Alaska and that all of this was super realistic. As I laughed and knocked on things to show how real everything was, my companions were exchanging worried expressions and rushed me to a nearby clinic. Apparently, we were in Tyler, in Texas, a place about which I had zero previous knowledge. My companions, apparently my friends since kindergarten, told the doctor that I had almost drowned. My lifelong friends expressed concern that I didn't remember any of them and that I kept saying I lived in Alaska. The doctor gave me oxygen, hit my knee with a rubber hammer to test my reflexes, and shone a light in my eyes. He eventually told us that permanent amnesia is impossible rare, and that my brain would probably shake it off in a couple of days. My Tyler friends took me to my super realistic apartment that was full of things I didn't remember owning. Everything was nice enough to leave me grinning in my living room, where I snooped around and waited for the salvia to wear off. I had fallen asleep on the couch, and in the morning woke to urgent knocking. Paul, apparently my friend, informed me that I hadn't shown up for work, and drove me to Peterson Farm, where I blinked at a clipboard all day. Not really even pretending to supervise super realistic migrant labor for a large apple orchard. Still waiting for the salvia to wear off. The workday ended and my friend offered to bring me to his house for dinner. I told him that I just wanted to go back to my apartment and wait for this crap to wear off. I shook Paul's hand and complimented him on how real he seemed, which he didn't care for. I slept in the bed the second night, fully expecting to wake up in Alaska. Instead, I woke again to Paul knocking. I hadn't shown up for work again. And this repeated itself every minute of every day for 8 years. I was trapped in Tyler, Texas. At first I was a man sleepwalking through an imaginary life. I didn't bother picking up my paychecks until there was no money left in my bank account. I wouldn't hang out with my friends or answer tedious questions about my memory. I would just go home every day and sit in my apartment and cry and wonder if I had imagined my life in Alaska. It took 4 years to crack me, but after failing to find any trace of my previous life, I accepted that I had sustained brain damage in a near drowning. The narrative that I had a family in Alaska who loved me began to feel like the kind of escapist fever dream a loser has when his brain goes swimming too long. The belief that I had brain damage gave me a kind of closure, allowing me to let go of my life in Alaska and start participating in my life in Tyler. One day at lunch, I told my handful of friends that I wanted to sing in the cover band they were always talking about forming. I started hanging out with them, interfacing through classic rock covers. We developed a kind of shorthand where they knew to include backstory in our conversations when needed. And I learned to stop treating people like they were imaginary. Then one day I was walking across the park to meet my friends, carrying a bucket of chicken, when the grass beneath my feet turned into a whirlpool, and I fell through the ground and back into Alaska. My now ex-wife was on the ground, holding me around the chest, while I shook with a seizure. "Hang up," she said. "I think he's coming out of it." My friend, who had probably been thinking about how he would explain this to the police if I died, eagerly hung up the phone mid-dial. Of course, nothing has changed in the 8 years I had been gone, because the total elapsed time of my seizure may have been as short as 45 seconds. Best guess. Everyone was mad at me for playing around with drugs on Christmas, but I was too weepy to care for the wonder of my family. My Alaska life in a borrowed pair of sweatpants due to a super realistic accident in my slacks during the seizure, was still better than anything Tyler and Texas had to offer. In the years since, I still have more questions than answers, lingering doubts about reality and time, and some confusing emotions about friends in Tyler, whose imaginary nature I am still reluctant to hold against them. He's still not sure whether these were imaginary or not. This is the story, and it's very closely remembering to the 10-year trip reports of Kleiner Kiffer 84 KK84. He wrote a big, huge book about it. Over 10 years he was going into Salvia Divinorum almost every month. And he may be the far advanced consciousness in this realm, and he shares it. And what he has lived is very similar, super realistic, being in his childhood, being in another body. He was even in the body of a girlfriend where he just watched a photo before on Salvia, and then he realized how it is to be a woman within the split of a second, and he could use it also to diagnose illness or to heal infections or a flu. And he got very familiar with the goddess entity that is us, that is not an external entity. It is the Salvia goddess. It is she who is swirling the wheel. And I'm remembered also about my experience on Just Body On, the deja vu, switching fully into the Salvia experience and awareness, where I had the experience of being the Salvia goddess and being I will have to quote it in the German version of this here maybe, or do English subtitles on it. It is too cross. It is too cross what that this seems to be supposed, or how it is called, the destiny of. There was one quote in the Salvia Bible that it seems that the whole purpose of my life and beingness is to read the Salvia Bible. This is what I realized during reading it, that it is, it is just dipping you into. You see all at once these parallel realities. All simultaneously, you can switch into different realities. You are your father, you are your mother. You have experience. You have a lot of funny experiences where there are wormholes built, and your body gets slipped through, and you have not anymore a body form. Or you experience how it is to be a briquette, or a fountain, or some tree, or a flower, or a bushes, and or even being a pig that is about to be killed by a slaughter. You are the space in which it takes place, and what Salvia does, it is essentially dissociate every ego, every I structure, and it also completely cancels time and space, and this makes then all these craziest experiences possible. And when you now compare it is really a one-to-one similarity, analogy, and also the author of the Salvia Bible, Kleiner Kiffer 84, he said that for 10 years he was looking for one word to describe the effect. He was looking for it so hardly, so almost desperately. And now, as I just put out the Mandela effect and he watched the first videos that I made, he just realized this was the word I was looking for 10 years during my Salvia experiences, the Mandela effect. So yeah, it is understanding. It was even then called Understanding Time and Reality Factory. It was quoted in the Lucid Dream Abracadabra Portal movie, the best ofs, And here we can really merge and melt them. It is really time that mankind knows what Salvia Divinorum and the Mandela effect is. The Mandela effect is already, and when I showed this video yesterday, first time premiere to a friend, he was shocked to the bones. He was so shocked. His life ended in this moment. That since he has had his first Salvia experience, he witnesses the Mandela effect showing up. And in fact, for me, it was the same. It may not be for all outer world, because all outer world is what I project out of it, but this is one interpretation of the story, that once you touch Salvia, it will never. This is one of the articles on trips worth telling. I wonder if the trip ever stopped. I wonder if am I still in it, because it's so super realistic when you switch to and also to alternative realities. KK84 had the experience of meeting his unborn brother, that he was in this reality. He had a brother, and his mother had a birth with a dead baby, and then the other one he met his brother. And it was not like a DMT completely with all these visuals, and it was a reality like ours. You could not, and it is so super detailed that you couldn't tell the difference. And in fact, my first Salvia experience was like waking up from a dream that before was my life. It was a complete breakthrough, and time stopped, time and space hang. They ran through me 100,000 times. And I've had a feeling like that I broke in reality. And I guess it would be really great if one could help to get the Salvia Bible through a translator, that it is just available as a PDF. Maybe I don't know if I read it, because I'm ready to take off, because now to whom am I telling this? This is all a projection, and now that I shared this, I am ready to go. I am ready to unfold my wings, our wings, to shift realities and timelines at will, very, very fast. And it is just a quarter year, half a year. I will not carry on in this kind of this is not my reality, so I will shift, and the whole world around me will shift as well. This is why we experience the Mandela effect, because we are short before things are happening that will be even more cross, and these have to show up, because otherwise we would have a shock to we cannot die, but it would be too much to grasp. So this is also why I knew I cannot. That is also why it's telling me this is important to transport these messages, to share this with. I explained it right today to a girlfriend. Like, it was like a dirigent who just guides what is going on. It is like, and he says, well, there are 5 people missing today in the orchestra, so we won't play. And this was up to now, for the birth process true. This is what I see repeatedly and vision and experience since years and years and years. This big event happening, this flash where all humanity is in the same, and there is no humanity. There is this great video of Alan Watts. Society is a hoax, is fake. People are fake. And down below you find 5 other things that this is fake, this is fake, this is fake. Even being born is fake. Someone told me if you shake off the memory of being born, then you live forever. Like, this is all. It is so much. and also when you question, and what is then about all the people and my friends, what will happen to them if I switch? Well, what does happen to your dream reality characters when you go to another state? What is this? That they are not lost, but nothing is lost, but it is all a creation out of you. And I would have stated crazy 1 year ago. I had this all this knowledge already 1 year ago, but I wouldn't speak it out loudly because I knew how it sounded. But now you just need to look in this hacking reality video, which is very professional made, and you have quoted Greg Braden, Alan Watts, and the next scientist, and the next super. These all had to grow in all these voices that you hear come from a very well-based society state, like kind of physicists and scientists, and even Terence McKenna, and even whatever. For me too, it is true that I had first to study and make an impact on, hey, I am not crazy, I really know about, and I'm not addicted to drugs or anything. I really go a healthy path, and also but in the end it's not about arguing or anything, but just realize this is because, and in Salvia you understand, it is a library of language and language evolution. It's like Terence McKenna said, reality is created out of language. And the biggest evolution of language is, in fact, Salvia Divinorum. It shows you metaphorically language in a way you could never get into words. Never. But you have this body's own, everyone has this as a body's own echo. This is also what I can tell. When I tell often about Salvia, I cannot avoid it. I'm not aiming to this, all the videos, but it always happens that it is placed because there are so many analogies where I'm remembered on it. And now I have not more than 10 to 15 Salvia experiences in my life. And 90% of the Salvia experiences where I report of are just body-owned, triggered through synchronicity or something. It just comes because and it told me I am an incarnation of Salvia Divinorum, and this, yeah. And then it makes all perfectly sense in the end. We will see it is really a dream within the dream within the dream, and the dreamer dreams the dream, and there is no end to the within of things. So to shed a greater perspective and also getting Salvia more into a professional light, here follows a video compilation. First one is Salvia, the history and truth of Salvia Divinorum. Next one is a great chat between Joe Rogan and Dennis McKenna. Dennis McKenna is the brother of Terence McKenna. They both talk about Salvia Divinorum and Bufo Alvarius and 5-MeO-DMT. And this here is about Salvia, but I would not skip out the part about 5-MeO-DMT, as it is already hinted to in Lucid Dream. Combining 5-MeO-DMT and Salvia is literally the portal. Everything ends there and is reborn there. So it is good to have some more information about it. And then a really cool guy, The Night Dimension, the issue was smoking Salvia Divinorum extracts, that it is why it is really much better to chew. And it also explains the kind of really much far too cross experiences, and that it will be a different thing when it is chewed. Yeah, to open up here, because this is like a great theater stage. This is now the final level, short before you have won the game. To realize the connection between Salvia and our reality shifting in Mandela-like fashion. It is connecting the dots. Have fun.
Salvia divinorum, also known as S. divinorum or salvia, is a hallucinogenic plant native to the northeastern Sierra Mazateca mountain region of Mexico. The native Mazatecs have used it for centuries as a healing and spiritual tool. It is only one of about 500 different species of salvia. The psychoactive component of Salvia divinorum, salvinorin A, is the most potent naturally occurring hallucinogen. Salvia is generally understood to be of low toxicity to the body and non-addictive. In fact, it has been indicated that the activation of the kappa opioid receptor may in fact serve as a potent addiction treatment therapy. Currently, neither Salvia divinorum nor its active ingredient, salvinorin A, are listed as controlled substances in the United States. The exact origin of the plant is generally unknown. Like most psychedelics used by indigenous people, it was kept a secret and not shared with the outside world until the mid-1900s. Salvia has had a long, disputed history, and until recent years, those responsible for its discovery in the Western world was highly debated. Also in recent years, salvia has garnered a particular reputation with society. When videos of people smoking the plant went viral, people also found out it was legal. This caused a huge influx of more videos online, and since then, salvia has widely been known as a wild, uncontrollable hallucinogen when smoked. But in fact, indigenous people never smoked the plant. They drank it. So smoke something, drink something. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoy it. And this is the history and truth of salvia. Salvia is only one of several vision-inducing plants used by the Mazatec Indians. And unlike the ritual use of hallucinogens like psilocybin mushrooms and morning glory seeds, the literature on salvia is relatively recent. There are a number of common names for Salvia divinorum, and nearly all are related to the plant's association with the Virgin Mary. The Mazatecs believe this salvia to be an incarceration of the Virgin Mary, and care is taken to avoid trampling on or damaging it when picking the leaves. The first recorded mention of salvia was made in 1938 by John B. Johnson, who heard of Mazatecs making a tea from the leaves of a plant referred to as Yerba Maria. Up until the early 1960s, there were various recorded plants with names ranging from Hoja de Adivinación to Sic Pastora, all more than likely what we know as Salvia divinorum today. In 1960, Robert Gordon Wasson collected samples of Salvia divinorum, but they were inadequate for identification. On July 12, 1961, for the first time by someone from the modern Western world, Wasson ingested salvia and experienced effects.
What's up, everybody? My name is Kenny DeKnight, and this is The Night Dimension. And today, I want to tell you guys what I think is the real issue with smoking Salvia divinorum extracts. So for those of you who don't know, Salvia divinorum can be smoked or chewed, and the way it was used in tradition for hundreds of years was chewed. Now, when Salvia divinorum came up really big in our society about 10, 20 years ago, we saw a plethora of YouTube videos of people smoking it and acting ignorant and acting crazy and basically just losing their minds and losing themselves. And that put a real bad image into the world about Salvia divinorum. So I want to talk about the real issue behind smoking salvia extracts. So the real issue is that some of what we're experiencing, especially 20x, 30x and above, it's so bizarre and un-Englishable that our language processing basically breaks down, and we have no way to explain what's actually happening besides parallel universes, overlapping dimensions, meetings with entities or deities, maybe God. You know, we just don't have the words to explain what's actually going on. So we have to create, in a sense, what it was that we were going through. And I think that that's probably not the best thing when we're trying to identify what is happening to you during one of these experiences. You know, so inevitably, we end up not having the words to explain what it is that we actually went through. So I'm not saying that people are making things up, but we should definitely take these things with a grain of salt. What we're dealing with is salvinorin A. It's the most potent naturally occurring hallucinogen known to man, and it's going to do some pretty intense stuff. and I don't think smoking it is the way to go. And to continue forward on with my content and with me talking about salvia, I want to make that the main preface, is don't smoke the extracts. You know, I mean, you can, like I've said before, it's probably a wake-up call. If you wanted a wake-up call, you could smoke some salvia and it would, boom, you know, make you realize, holy crap, like, I gotta make some changes in my life. But if you really don't need that, smoking salvia is really not necessary. So that's why I just wanted to talk to you guys about what I think is the real problem with smoking Salvia divinorum extracts, and that, chew it. We should just keep talking about chewing it and keep getting more people to try and chew it and bring out a better, more positive name for this beautiful plant, which has been misunderstood. And I'm going to do my best to bring awareness to that. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. YouTube Schwiely stuff. Like, comment, subscribe. This was The Night Dimension. I'm Kenny the Night, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace. Salvia divinorum is my favorite psychedelic. What's up, everybody? This is The Night Dimension. My name's Kenny the Night, and I hope you enjoyed that little funny intro. Obviously, that's not me. I just wanted to be funny with my hair. But Salvia divinorum is my favorite psychedelic. Why? That's what the first thing that would come to anybody's mind is why? Why salvia out of all the others? And I don't blame you for thinking that way. Salvia divinorum is an extremely dysphoric plant. Salvia divinorum can bring you out of your body in seconds. Salvia divinorum can bring you to another dimension in seconds. Salvia divinorum can take everything you've ever learned and destroy it. But Salvia divinorum can also teach you more about your mind and more about your brain than I think these other psychedelics can. So all in all, what is my favorite thing about Salvia divinorum? My favorite thing about Salvia divinorum is the return to the body. We all search for an awakening or enlightenment or some sort of knowledge when we're taking any sort of substance. At least I have. And when I've used acid, I've noticed that most of the enlightenment comes from within the experience. You start in the first couple hours and everything is crazy and everything goes everywhere, and then you sort everything out, and then you realize you and your friend are God, and it's the greatest experience ever. And then you go to sleep and you wake up the next morning and it's pretty crazy, you know, but most of that enlightenment was gained from within the experience. And I feel like psilocybin mushrooms is very similar to this, where the enlightenment is gained during the experience, but more towards the end, after you realize that life itself is the trip, and there's no sort of like trippy things happening, but life itself is the trippiest thing that could ever be. You know, but most of that enlightenment or awakening comes from within that experience. Whereas Salvia divinorum, I feel, is very interesting because it takes you out of your body. It takes you out of your mind. Only for a little bit. And then it throws you back into your body. It throws you back into your physical situation. It throws you back into it. Whether you're smoking, I mean, chewing, it's a lot more subtle and because the experience is longer. But with smoking, it just throws you back into your body after the experience is over. And that awe, that awake, that, whoa, I'm back. You know, that is magical. That right there could be the most powerful thing about Salvia divinorum. Not even the experience itself, but simply the return to the body, which I think is the most important thing that I've ever learned from the psychedelics, was the return to the body. That no matter how far you go, how far out you go, we have to return to the body, and this body and this physical identity that we are currently is the most important dimension that we have ever faced. So that's why Salvia divinorum is my favorite psychedelic, and I hope you guys go and check it out a little bit. But leave me your thoughts, leave me your comments, leave a like, subscribe, and all that good shit. And I love y'all. If y'all love salvia. But you don't even need to love salvia. You just gotta love yourself. But I'll catch you later. Peace.
Salvia tells me to tell that salvia is not a plant with fire. It is not its element. The element of salvia is water. It was originally drinking in water or with your mucous membranes in your mouth. This is her element, and this is how she can communicate and transport the deeper and the reality factory best. So this wants to be hinted. And it's a sacred sacrament. It's what also is connotated, emphasized very, very a lot by KK84, that it is so sacred that it couldn't be any more sacred. It is not a drug. It is not anything. But it is, and for me, it is even higher in what I respect and what I, ayahuasca and DMT is really, really high. Really, it has all frequencies. Like it can bring you in all crystalline frequencies, and then you realize with this high frequency you have 100% body own grasp to the salvia universe. But it is, for me, it is higher because it is the Ur code. It is the Ur mother of the Ur mother of the Ur mother infinite. It is simply the basic structure and fabric of reality, and it is also telling that all reality is on the back of the leaves. It is all leafed in salvia. All the leaves, like thousands of pages or leaves from the plant. One cannot get this into words, but I had to make you this. And very interesting, because this is so, here, very funny, of course. Lady Salvia is the heaviest object in the universe. More dense and more wormhole, like even more than a black hole. And a black hole is connected to the golden ratio. And whose theory it is? Nassim Haramein has the theory of that we have a black hole in the middle of our brain, and that even every atom, every particle, every subparticle in its center is a black hole. This really shifts perspective. And from this black hole, and the black hole is consciousness because it is correlated to Phi, the golden sexual, and a black hole. In fact, God is the one consciousness, and he placed himself in a black hole of where he forgets everything, and from this point everything is created. This is very well explained in Lucid Dream Audiobook 3. But the connection of salvia and the Mandela effect is up to now only hinted to by one lovely pioneer with a very small channel, PAS in Petrodactyl. And I also contacted this guy. He just made some thought connections, but he's actually so right. Mandela effect and salvia, Mandela effect and God and salvia, and salvia time and the Mandela effect. So, yeah, just to, how is it called? Yeah, to quote here correctly, that, and this has to get an extra title to make this connection clear. Zitat aus der unendlichen Geschichte.
In dem Moment, wo du mich erschaffen hast, habe ich bereits 1000 Jahre auf dich gewartet. Die ganze Szene mit dem Löwen war, dass er diesen Löwen erschaffen hat, der gleichzeitig die Wüste ist. Und der Löwe dann gesagt hat, ich habe schon so lange auf dich gewartet. Und er sagt dann, ich kann mich erinnern, dass ich dich erst mir vorgestern ausgedacht habe. Und dann meint der Löwe, in dem Moment, wo du mich erschaffen hast, habe ich bereits 1000 Jahre auf dich gewartet.
And I'm gonna read the reaction of KK84 to the first pre-version of this video. He wrote, and I'm gonna read it in German. You will find the subtitles. So Flashback. Salvia ist der Mandela-Aktivator, sowie DMT der Frequenzaktivator ist. Auch wenn ich das Wort Mandela-Effekt nicht kannte, fällt mir jetzt nachträglich auf, dass dieser Effekt im Alltag oft präsent ist und es auch früher schon war. Jetzt, wo ich weiß, auf welche Nuancen der vermeintlichen Zeitlinie man achten muss. Die Nuancen, die tauchen jetzt auf, sichtbar erkennbar und daran wie ein Uhrwerk übereinander gelagert. Ich glaube, solange man nicht explizit darauf sensibilisiert ist, fällt einem der Effekt so lange nicht auf, weil er mit keiner typischen Bewusstseinsveränderung einhergeht. Weil diese Welten in Salvia nicht weniger real sind als unsere Alltagswelt. Das scheint die Hauptinformation zu sein, die einem Salvia erzählt. Und er schreibt auch, extrem krass diese Story von dem Typ, der versehentlich Salvia-Extrakt geraucht hat, weil er es für synthetische Cannabinoide gehalten hat. Mir ist das in der Eile auch schon passiert, dass ich zur falschen Substanz gegriffen habe. Das kann echt heftig enden. Da erwartet man Donnerschlag X und bekommt Ohrfeige Y. Jawohl. And now follows a best of compilation of the video I already published 2017, Lucid Dream. This is the portal. Because it's especially about DMT Salvia. What it unfolds shall be shown here again. Okay, while I was now finding the best spots about Salvia in the Portal movie, it happened that it gets now a best of this, and it's like a time travel back. But she already there had a lot of clues, and therefore this will fill up about 26 minutes or so, and also contain a wonderful afterlude and finish of this one. So just tune in. Okay, how to spider net. Have a look to this. And then you love in deep DMT space. Did we really want to do this now? Go into oblivion, getting all and you love and you realize that someone had to do it. This is what I call sending God into black hole. And in fact, there happen the peaks of evolution through these creatures that you could call shamans. Yeah, Salvia. This is something that grows. And it was really our creation quest to look around and get in touch with what else information is there. And Salvia is so brilliant. It is split up in substance, active ingredient in science. And it helps against schizophrenia, HIV, Alzheimer. Everything you would think you're crazy. This mad thing helps against madness. And here greatly already composed as Psytrance audiobook, thanks to Jamura. I have to cut it here.
Divinorum means truth maker. Your consciousness is everywhere. This is you. You're not moving. The space is moving around you. Am I crazy? Then Salvia would not be called Divinorum.
And in fact, Salvia is the oldest plant of multiverse. So I put in later what folded maximally in me the lectures of Terence McKenna exploring the abyss and unfolding the stone. Yet here a short must pre-knowledge, it's called Salvia Divinorum, Time and Reality Factory. So I went into deep ayahuasca state, where you have a 4 hours crystal clear telepathy communication. And it was also about deciding whether we now combine Salvia Divinorum, look into the Book of Time as it is topic in this current production. Because because we are then one, and all decide whether we really want to do this now and put our consciousness in this. We didn't. It has a great reason, and we already had all access to what can now unfold. And for that, what comes next? It is clearly telling me I shall not use what you call common sense to minimize even one of the words that were catched. It's like all events ever were just preparing that this can be heard. So here we go. And it could happen like this because in deep ayahuasca state it has time to formulate and to show you all this. With DMT smoke, that is it's a nice introduction. Yet the other thing is you controlling the metrics once you're under and all the meaning gets installed. So what you perceive when in absolute stillness, Dao state. This is the main function of psychedelics. They make you holding still, that something can happen, and they show something to you, and they is us, is we. It's like waking up in the matrix. We're all embryos, what we still are connected, resting in fluid. It's like when a bird suddenly slips out of its nest. First time fly. You are a multi-parallel sacred geometry nest. And you see all the data highway of multiverse fractally stacked layered. And you just got the license to drive it. This is such a woohoo moment. This is Mind Highway. Here you learn how to switch through dimensions. Once you get aware that you can functionalize it, any moment, yes, you can have this state forever. And again it says me, be aware, this state is endless. It is not, hey, you can stop it like in a movie. And again. And a feeling through my navel of release, like all tension ever dropped. It's created out of you, everything. Never had there any reason to hurry. It's not running away. You never missed anything. There is no time. You perceive thought in standstill, waiting for you. Cool. Time is created out of you. You can repeat, switch it back to again from here, like play, pause on a movie. Everything just prepared until this captures your awareness. Time before and after was stretched to this moment, and all history around you with it. It is a self-realization of all thoughts at once. We are nothing but thought, an advanced spiritual thought, a progressing thought, that then crystallizes down through all frequencies, equals dimensions. Thought is made of pure light, everywhere, anytime. You just don't perceive it when you are distracted with 3D only perception. You could anytime perceive 3D as a slice of all D. You are master of numbers, geometry, anytime. When you realize this, exactly this manifests while you think, and you get it anytime shown as well. It is really you in this multidimensional. It is not a thought, it is happening. Every desire you feel, you can instantly still. When you wanted to stop smoking, you already did it last week. Same with healing organs. You slip into the parallel reality where it happened. You remember and live on in this slice. You are a moving thought that can master all slices of time and reality factory. What unfolded in human history through understanding of Salvia Divinorum. Yes, we already can talk about this as happened in history. Any moment you can slice through it. What is easy when your body is in Tao stillness. It gets you to hold so still, and you can use other than movements, but it's always created out of Tao state. If you want to take your body with you, just use the Platonic solids, as learned in kindergarten history, what was there to serve your memory. That you now have words to form meaning, and meaning without words. You are mem, smallest unit of an idea, same as gene is the smallest unit of organism. That is fractal holographic smallest unit. This you use to transport, teleport. And you called it quantum teleportation. Yes, you can project yourself onto the shell of a quantum. Everything perceived happens always on surfaces. Thought that passes through surfaces passes through dimensions. Once you get aware, you're in a lucid dream. You will never forget, and you can skip karma. This you get what you get back what you emit, because you are what you emit. Just skip the in between of I want and I am. You are divine infinite being. There couldn't be more meaning folded in this, yeah. No. One thought switches focus on any time-space slice. Grasp all parallel multi-realities to inside out club through the slices while you are in Merkaba shuttle. What is simply a star tetrahedron geometry around you, connected to the doecahedron geometry of vector equilibrium. And we knew, if I now look into the Book of Salvia, feel the book unfold, the final piece of how time slices any time unfold, and we would fall through our mattress when this filter is lifted. This is mastering the situation by losing mastership. In many ayahuasca experiences, for me, Salvia was active, without having touched it. And it is speaking out of items around you. And this feeling can't be broken down so easily as you just know deja vu, maybe, and the Mandela effect, what Evert says, that our global memory has parallel things, how history went, that can be proven, like whether Mandela died, and there can be a lot. This is where you can catch a lot of people in how everything is really perception and thought factory. And or when you smell something that you haven't for a long time, and it casts you into a situation in your childhood or something. This is similar to the Salvia echo that I'm here telling about. And we could already look into the Salvia effect, but it would be of course much more cross if we really did it. Yet we know, the more special rare you use it, the stronger will get its echo. It is we have it in our bodies that it gets stronger then. It is true, 5-MeO DMT plus Salvia is multiverse awakening portal. It says to me, I even haven't not yet combined these two, it was always just DMT. All history unfolds unto this happening. And yes, it's an experience of your own, when no one has to take care of you, when there is no creditor. When you go with this knowledge into it, you will repuzzle all crystal infos. And it will not be a psychedelic journey where you came back from where you started. You are in control of all. Everything flows out of you and shapes out of you. This is what then happens. You return into another reality that slightly or largely adapted to you, even if you don't notice it yet. You get more and more linked and synced. It will draw you to your fulfillment. Become creator. Like Terence McKenna said, wander through Elysium, looking right and left to history trails as novelty pattern. So similar. Immortal are you when you are all the time dead. This is conscious data highway. Cool. Yeah, really, everything was functional until you are in this state. Not by dying, by being aware of it. And the rest was not of importance, didn't matter. It will adapt. Now it says me when I have time to calm down, and when I learn the runes, then this is the smallest unit at which your operating system works, and you give the signal, and this is 1-1 logos, the word and the spread, and therefore find back to sacred geometry. It says we are Phi. Yes, we are Phi, that's it. is how well time slices. For a mosquito, it's a different appearance of time as for humans, as for, like the Pleiadians say, there are creatures, for them are 300 years are like 1 month. And in this space, thought has a maximum focus form, and it crystallizes down to small switches that just do what in the end is your fulfillment, the fulfillment of light.
In other words, the body must become an interiorized hologrammatic object embedded in a solid-state hyperdimensional matrix, which is eternal, so that man wanders through Elysium in his body. This is a kind of Islamic paradise that I'm putting out here. Wanders through Elysium in his body, experiencing all the pleasures of the flesh, but not realizing that he is a holographic projection of a solid-state matrix that is micro-miniaturized, superconducting, and nowhere to be found. It is part of the plenum. And all history is about producing prototypes of this situation with greater and greater closure toward the ideal, so that airplanes, automobiles, condominiums, starships of the hardware, speed of light, spin-dizzy drive type, all of these are, as Mircea Eliade says, self-transforming images of flight that speak volumes about man's aspiration to self-transcendence. And our only hope, basically, is to end the historical crisis by becoming the alien, by ending alienation, by recognizing the alien as the self, in fact, recognizing the alien as an overmind which holds all the physical laws of the planet intact in the same way that you hold an idea intact in your mind. In other words, all these givens, which are thought to be so rich in adamantine, are actually merely the moods of the God, if you will, which we happen to be. And the whole thing about human history is recovering this piece of lost information so that man may be dirigible. Or, again, to quote Finnegan's Wake, But up in the end, prospector, you sprout all your worth and you woof your wings. So if you want to be phoenixed, come and be parked. It's that simple, you see.
If then you do not make yourself equal to God, you cannot apprehend God. Leap clear of all that is corporeal, and make yourself to a like expanse with that greatness which is beyond all measure. Rise above all time, and become eternal. Then you will apprehend God. Think that for you too nothing is impossible. Deem that you too are immortal, and that you are able to grasp all things in your thought, to know every craft and every science. Find your home in the haunts of every living creature. Make yourself higher than all heights and lower than all depths. Bring together in yourself all opposites of quality, heat and cold, dryness and fluidity. Think that you are everywhere at once, on land and sea, in heaven. Think that you are not yet begotten, that you are in the womb, that you are young, that you are old, that you have died, that you are in the world beyond the grave. Grasp in your thought all this at once, all times and places, all substances and qualities and magnitudes together. Then you can apprehend God. But if you shut up your soul in your body and abase yourself and say, I know nothing, I can do nothing, I am afraid of earth and sea, I cannot mount to heaven, I know not what I was, nor what I shall be, then what have you to do with God? Would that it were possible for you to grow wings and soar into the air. Poised between earth and heaven, you might see the solid earth, the fluid sea and the streaming rivers, the wandering air, the penetrating fire, the courses of the stars, and the swiftness of the movement with which heaven encompasses all. What happiness were that, my son, to see all these borne along with one impulse, and to behold him who is unmoved, moving in all that moves, and him who is hidden, made manifest through his works.
is Mind Highway. Here you learn how to switch through dimensions. It's like waking up in the Matrix. It's like when a bird suddenly slips out of its nest. First time flying. You are a multi-parallel sacred geometry nest. And you see all the data highway of multiverse fractally stacked layers.
To distant galaxies without any rocket ship. We can ride the racing neural pathways of the brain. We can slither with the snakes in the swamps of the primeval jungle, yeah. We can jump through the geometries of the future light sound. Because inner and outer space are exactly the same. Like you're going insane, yeah, yeah. Inner and outer space are exactly the same. Now we can laugh to ourselves deep within the belly of the beast. And we can raise our voices in heated discussion to no avail. We can see from the sides of our minds more truly than from the front. We can begin to sense an alien intelligence taking shape from the forward. I said inner and outer space are exactly the same, yeah. When you start hearing voices speaking inside of your brain, yeah. And you might start to feel just a bit like you're going insane, yeah, yeah. Conspiracies about all the evil in the world. We can theorize and conceptualize